The story begins in the northwestern region of the Clay Kingdom. Our protagonist, Norm, is busy making medicine for his sick mother. After drinking the medicine, she thanks him for always taking care of her. Norm tells her he needs to go feed the sheep now, and she makes him promise not to go outside the barrier. He assures her he won't. Norm mentions he will bring back some fruits and rabbit meat to make soup. His mother starts coughing, and worried, he says he'll boil some water for her. She stops him and wipes the dirt from her hardworking son's face. Apologetically, she says she's sorry for not being able to give him much and that he deserves to choose how he lives. The scene shifts to Norm at night, making soup with the rabbit meat and fruits he gathered. When it's done, he takes it to his mother and tries to wake her, but she doesn't respond. Devastated, he realizes she has passed away. He then makes a grave for her next to his father's grave and silently cries. After this heartbreaking event, Norm spends his days catching prey to eat, taking care of his cattle, organizing things in his house, and reading books. Each day passes in this routine, and he feels lonely when not occupied with work. One day, he finds an old book in his house. Upon reading it, he remembers it was the book his father used to read to him as a child. His father used to tell him about adventurers, sharing heroic tales that fascinated Norm. He learned that adventurers could lift curses haunting a forest, study magic to become powerful magicians, band together to take down colossal monsters, and even secure an all-curing elixir from the Spirit King. No matter the crisis, adventurers would fight to protect. The next day, Norm lays out large amounts of feed for his cattle and says his farewells to his mother and father at their graves. He tells them that he is going on his first trip to the city to become an adventurer. With a mix of excitement and hesitation, he leaves the protective barrier around his home. After spending several days traveling alone, he finally reaches the city. Upon entering the city, Norm asks the guards at the gate for directions to the Adventurers Guild. They point him in the right direction, and he makes his way through the bustling city, marveling at the unfamiliar sights. Everything excites him, as it's his first time experiencing city life. When he arrives at the Adventurers Guild, the guildmaster initially tries to shoo him away, saying it's no place for kids. Norm explains that the gatekeeper directed him there to become an adventurer. The guildmaster advises against such a dangerous path, suggesting his parents would worry about him. Norm somberly informs the guildmaster that both his parents are dead. Upon being asked for his name, he introduces himself as Norm. The guildmaster then tells Norm that if he wants to become an adventurer, he should start by attending a training school, though he warns that Norm might have trouble fitting in as the youngest candidate they've ever had. Curious, Norm asks what a training school is. The guildmaster explains that everyone who wants to join the Royal Capital's Adventurers Guild must attend a training school to choose an adventurer class and acquire useful skills like sword techniques and magic. This excites Norm, and the scene shifts to him at a swordsman training school. He dreams of becoming a hero who could slay a dragon the size of a mountain with a single strike. At the school, Norm trains diligently in swordsmanship. One by one, the other students begin to awaken their sword skills, while Norm continues to train, feeling envious of their progress. Several months later, all the other students have learned various sword skills, but Norm has not made much progress. Despite his efforts, his instructor advises him to stop training, suggesting he pursue a different path. Noah wants to continue training, but the instructor tells him it would just be a waste of time. He harshly calls Noah a talentless bum, noting that in all his time there, he has only learned to parry. The instructor suggests that Noah might be better off exploring other training schools to find his potential. Determined, Noah goes to the warrior school. He thinks being a warrior would be cool, as he could stand on the front lines and protect his allies. Despite going through grueling training, he makes no progress. After several months, his warrior instructor tells him to quit, noting that Noah has only managed to slightly enhance his physical strength. He warns Noah that continuing on this path will only lead to injury. Noah then tries the hunter training school but fails there as well. His instructor tells him he isn't cut out for handling delicate tools like bows. Next, he tries the magician training school, but after all his training, he can only cast a puny flame that struggles to light a candle. He then goes to the thieves training school. Despite training there for a while, he can't get the hang of disarming traps, picking locks, or detecting presences, and he has to quit this path as well. Finally, he tries the cleric training school, but after months of training, he only learns the spell Low Heal, which can barely treat scrapes. Disappointed, Noah returns to the guild. The guild master is surprised to learn that Noah couldn't master a single skill after months of training. The guild master tells him he doesn't have what it takes to be an adventurer. Feeling like a talentless loser, Noah leaves the city in disappointment. The scene shifts back to his house, where Noah tells his parents' graves that he has no talent for adventuring but refuses to give up. He decides to work harder than anyone else and crafts himself a wooden sword. He recalls his sword instructor's words. The one skill he has might evolve into something new if he keeps honing it. Determined, he trains his parry skill. Noer spends his days and nights perfecting this one skill. A year passes, and Noer has trained his parry skills to deflect 10 swords at once. He still hasn't developed any new skills, but feels he is making progress. 3 more years pass, and now Noer can parry 100 swords at once, yet he still hasn't developed a new skill. Despite this, Noer refuses to give up. He trains so hard that he even breaks his wooden sword and heals his scratches with his low heal skill. 10 more years pass, and now Noer can parry 1,000 swords at once. He reflects that he hasn't missed a single day of training in the last 14 years, yet he still hasn't learned a single new skill. The next day, Noer decides to head to the city once more, and the scene shifts to him at the Adventurers Guild. The guild staff checks his skills and notes that he has parry, physical enhancement, stone throw, feather step, tiny flame, and low heal. She questions if he is sure he wants to register with these seemingly unimpressive skills. She explains the training school system and its benefits, but he mentions that he has already studied under all of them. This leaves the girl unsure of what to say. Realizing he won't be able to join the guild, Noer wonders if there is any way for him to achieve his dream. At this moment, the guild master arrives and struggles to recognize the grown-up Noer. After taking a closer look, he recalls who Noer is. Noer explains what he has been doing all these years, and the guild master is astonished that all he managed to learn is a slightly improved version of parry. The guild master then explains that adventurers are ranked from S to E, from the strongest to the weakest. To register as an E-ranked adventurer, one needs at least one useful skill, which Noer lacks. Feeling defeated, Noer contemplates giving up on his dream, but the guild master reveals that there is a lesser-known rank below E. Excited, Noer learns he can join the guild as an F-ranked adventurer. The guild master explains the conditions. Noer won't be able to take hunting or gathering jobs outside the city and will only be allowed to do odd jobs within the city's borders. This rank was designed for beggars to earn some food. Surprisingly, Noer agrees to join as an F-ranked adventurer. The guild master is taken aback but registers Noer when he insists. Noer is thrilled to see his adventurer card and begins taking on odd jobs around the city. He completes them one by one using his skills, however modest, while continuing his sword training. Days pass as he helps people throughout the city. One day, while sitting by a fire, he reflects on achieving his dream of becoming an adventurer who helps others, knowing he can't wish for more given his skills. He continues working odd jobs around the city. One day, Noer helps an old woman clean her drains, and she appreciates his consistent help. He then works at a construction site. After finishing his work, he notices a light shining in a cave and hears cries for help. Rushing to the cave, he sees a minotaur about to kill a girl. The girl is protected by knights who are quickly overwhelmed by the powerful monster. The minotaur kills the knights with ease, leaving the area drenched in blood and the girl terrified. Noer distracts the minotaur using his rock throw skill, drawing the monster's attention to himself. The minotaur chases Noer and attacks, but Noer manages to parry its strikes. As the minotaur continues its assault, Noer's sword takes damage. He realizes he needs to find an opening, but also acknowledges his lack of offensive skills. Seeing the girl still in danger, he uses feather step and parry to save her, but this destroys his sword. He resolves to protect the girl, remembering his father's words about what it means to be an adventurer. The minotaur attacks again, and Noer parries, causing the monster's axe to fly out of its hand and behead the minotaur. Noer knows he would have died if the fight had continued much longer, and once again acknowledges his lack of talent. The girl thanks him for saving her life and asks for his name, but he tells her he is not worth remembering and leaves. Some knights arrive to rescue the girl, and we see Noer back in town. He reflects on how he almost got killed by a random minotaur and resolves to train even harder. The scene shifts to butchers preparing to cut up the minotaur, while the girl Noer saved thanks the soldiers who sacrificed their lives for her. A lady knight rushes into the cave, relieved to see the girl unharmed. She apologizes for not being there in her time of need, but the girl reassures her that it wasn't her fault. She explains that she was undergoing the rite of succession, and having the knight by her side would have rendered the rite meaningless, so she tells her to stop worrying. A soldier named Darchin then informs the girl, Lindbergh Cleese or Lin for short, that they should return to the castle to inform everyone about what happened. Later, we see Lin's brother learning about the minotaur that was summoned on the streets. He finds it odd, as minotaurs are high-level monsters found in the innermost depths of dungeons. He concludes that this was an assassination attempt, and Darchin agrees, revealing that they found a ring on a merchant's corpse at the scene. The ring appeared to be the catalyst. And when an old man named Okun, the spell sovereign, examined it, he found a mana stone of extremely high purity, which is rare in the market. Lin's brother knows that a ranked threat like a minotaur isn't something that can be summoned with money alone. Darchin informs him that, according to Okun, the traces of the spell pattern remaining on the mana stone likely originate from the magic empire of Doritus. Lin's brother suspected that Doritus was behind this, as they have been harassing them recently. He believes they crossed the line by restraining the princess and attacking her with a minotaur. Since the evidence wasn't hidden, he speculates that their goal must go beyond assassination. Lin's brother speculates that Doritus is provoking them into waging war, aiming to acquire the Dungeon of the Lost and the treasures within it. He then changes the topic, asking about the man who saved his sister. Considering that he slew a minotaur with only a broadsword and evaded the Shadow Company, he must be highly skilled. Darchin tells him that the man disappeared right in front of the Shadow Company while they were tailing him, leaving Lin's brother curious about his identity. The scene then shifts to Nor at the Adventurers Guild. The guild master is relieved to see him alive, explaining that a powerful monster appeared near the dungeon's entrance yesterday. Given that the disturbance occurred near the construction site where Nor was working, and he hadn't returned after work, the guild master feared the worst. Nor explains that a suspicious group was tailing him last night, and since he was tired, he went directly home. The guild master points out that Nor looks filthy, and Nor explains it's because he was cleaning the gutters earlier. The guild master tells Nor he was fortunate not to encounter the monster, emphasizing that even a former ranked adventurer like him wouldn't have stood a chance. Nor, surprised that such a powerful monster exists, is glad he only fought the cow, not realizing that the guild master is talking about the same creature. Curious, Nor asks what happened to the monster, and learns it was killed by a mysterious man in a single blow. This revelation makes Nor realize there are truly amazing people in the world. After the guild master pays him for his work, he advises Nor to find a proper job. Nor, confused, points out he is already working as an adventurer. The guild master explains that Nor would earn 30% more if not for the guild taking commissions, suggesting a normal job might be better for him. Lin then approaches Nor, having located him using a long-distance detection skill. Nor speculates she might be from the thief school, but Lin clarifies she specializes in the magician branch, possessing an equal number of skills in all 6 branches. Nor is impressed, but Lin downplays her abilities compared to his. Noticing they are drawing a lot of attention, Lin suggests they take the conversation outside. The guild master is surprised to see Nor talking casually with her, and secretly asks if Nor has done something wrong. Nor doesn't recall anything, and Lin uses concealment and soundproofing spells, asking him to follow her. Nor looks to the guild master for advice, who tells him to listen to her and not offend her. As they walk around town, they pass by soldiers searching for the person who defeated the Minotaur. But thanks to the concealment magic, they can't see or sense Nor. He wonders who they are looking for. They then head to a secluded place where Lin apologizes for interrupting his chat with the guild master. Nor reassures her it's fine and asks if she needs anything from him. She expresses her gratitude for saving her life, emphasizing that he not only saved her, but many citizens of the kingdom. Nor thinks she is exaggerating, believing her skills surpass his. He apologizes for interfering in her fight, but she insists he did nothing wrong, as she would be dead if not for him. He accepts her gratitude since she is so insistent. Lin wishes to repay him, but Nor is content with just her words of thanks. Lin, however, is not satisfied and insists he meets her father to accept a reward. Nor, having no intention of accepting anything beyond her gratitude, rejects all her attempts. Lin, tearful and insistent, says she won't budge until he agrees. This reminds Nor of himself as a child, when he stubbornly insisted on continuing his training despite his cleric school teacher's discouragement. Reluctantly, he agrees to see her father, but insists he won't accept any extravagant rewards. Lin asks him to follow her, casting concealment magic on both of them to avoid attracting attention, and leads him to her house. Noah is surprised to see how grand her house is. They walk right in without the guards noticing. Lin then remembers she hasn't asked Noah's name, and he introduces himself, asking for her name in return. She is embarrassed for forgetting to introduce herself earlier and makes her introduction. As they continue through the grand house, Noah realizes Lin must be a wealthy noble. This understanding clarifies why the guild master advised him not to offend her. They soon encounter the Lady Knight from earlier. Lin asks the Lady Knight where her father is, and she informs Lin that he is in the audience chamber speaking to her brother. When the knight inquires about the man behind her, Lin explains that he is the one who saved her recently. Noah, mistaking the knight for a maid, is surprised she can do laundry and housework in her outfit. The knight glares at him, making Noah realize she is very cautious. She then leads them to the audience chamber, and on the way, they encounter a warrior. He asks where they are headed at this hour and who the unknown man is. The Lady Knight admonishes him to show respect to Lin's guest, revealing he is the man who saved her. Though the warrior doubts Noah's strength, the knight insists on respect and requests the warrior join them in case extra muscle is needed. He agrees, and they continue on. Meanwhile, in the audience chamber, Lin's father and brother discuss that Derrida has broken the non-aggression pact and made their demands clear. Earlier, they had a meeting with Derrida's representatives, where their king demanded rights to the dungeon and military support. Lin's father was appalled by the one-sided negotiation and refused their terms, considering it might be time for war with Derrida. Just then, Lin and the others enter the audience chamber. Lin's brother is furious she used the cloak of the hermit, but she explains it was necessary to find her savior. Her father realizes the man with her is the one who saved her. Noah apologizes for his unpresentable appearance, but Lin's father tells him it's fine. Noah declares he might lack proper manners and could unintentionally be rude, but the old man reassures him. He shakes Noah's hand, thanking him for saving his daughter. Noah thinks he can leave now, but the old man insists on rewarding him. He offers Noah anything he desires, be it land or wealth, but Noah declines. The old man then offers half of the dungeon treasures, but Noah has no interest in this either. Despite the old man's insistence, Noah refuses grand rewards. Eventually, the old man offers his old sword, explaining that he no longer needs it since retiring from the front lines. He plans to replace it with a replica, and Noah, finding the sword heavier than expected, wonders if it is important. The old man downplays its significance, calling it a second-hand item from his travels. Noah accepts it, and the old man asks him to try it out. Using physical enhancement, Noah swings the sword with all his might, creating a gust of wind in the room. He finds it heavy but manageable. Amused, the old man requests Noah to give Lin some training. Lin is excited, but Noah insists he lacks the qualifications to teach her. He believes Lin should decide her own path without her father meddling too much. The old man agrees, and Noah takes his leave. On his way out, Noah thinks the sword's weight will make it perfect for training. He also notices the sword's width matches the city drains, thinking it will make cleaning them more efficient. He plans to try it out tomorrow. Just then, the Lady Knight, in E's harness, approaches him to talk. She apologizes for treating him suspiciously earlier, explaining her duty is to shield the House of Cleese from harm, which takes precedence over entertaining guests. Noah realizes she is not a maid, but the vice captain of the warrior corps, known as the Divine Shield since childhood. She thanks him for saving Lin, stating she will strive to be someone he can rely on. Noah is unsure why she is making such a big deal out of it, but she assures him he can ask for her help if needed. Noah accepts her gratitude, and she warns him to behave more formally in the audience chamber in the future to avoid severe punishment. especially in front of other vassals. Noor understands, and she asks his name. He introduces himself, surprising her, but she says nothing and leaves. Before Noor can leave, the warrior from earlier, named Gilbert, confronts him and challenges him to a duel to test his strength. The scene then shifts to Gilbert leading Noor somewhere, and Noor wonders what Gilbert wants from him. Feeling tired and wanting to return home, Noor asks Gilbert about his intentions. They arrive at the training room, and Gilbert requests a sparring match with Noor. Reflecting that he hasn't sparred since his training school days, Noor is intrigued when Gilbert, who is quite famous in the capital, asks him to choose his weapon. Noor sees this as a rare opportunity to face a seasoned veteran and selects a sword for the match. As they enter the sparring stage, Noor feels unsure about being a good opponent, but resolves to give his best effort. The other soldiers in the training grounds are surprised to see someone sparring with their captain and wonder if Noor has a death wish. Gilbert attacks Noor, but he manages to dodge. As Gilbert continues his attacks, Noor keeps dodging and notices the refinement in Gilbert's moves, suggesting intense training. However, he wonders why Gilbert seems slow and realizes that Gilbert must be holding back since Noor is much weaker. Noor asks Gilbert to stop for a moment. Gilbert halts, and Noor tells him he knows Gilbert is being considerate, but asks him not to hold back so much. Gilbert, realizing he might have subconsciously held back because Noor is human, apologizes and attacks at full speed. Noor still manages to dodge and notices Gilbert's increased speed, but also observes that Gilbert leaves his back defenseless after every attack. Noor continues to dodge and suspects that Gilbert might be giving him an opening on purpose to trap him. While Gilbert is frustrated that his attacks aren't connecting, Gilbert then uses a move to change the direction of his spear mid-attack. But Noor dodges this as well, which provides Gilbert with an opening for another attack. Surprisingly, Noor dodges again and tells Gilbert he can go even faster if he wants. This angers Gilbert, as he is already going as fast as he can, which Noor realizes. Reflecting on his own training, Noor feels he might have finally become stronger and could possibly win. However, in his anger, Gilbert uses his finishing move, Drag Rave, which almost hits Noor, but is dodged at the last second. Gilbert, unable to see how Noor dodged, is freaked out, and Noor suddenly concedes the match. The scene then cuts to Noor returning home, thinking about his close call. Meanwhile, at the training grounds, the other soldiers are stunned. They speculate that the captain couldn't have missed, believing Noor might have been knocked back by the sheer wind pressure from the attack. They think Noor would have lost his head if the captain had used a real spear, given Gilbert's reputation as a once-in-a-century genius. Gilbert knows the truth and reflects on his past, when he was called a genius from the moment he picked up a spear. He traveled to a village seeking strong opponents, but was disappointed by the weak villagers, as no one could stand against him. He believed he would become even stronger with continued training, but had no worthy sparring partners. One day, the village chief asked if he was enjoying his stay, but Gilbert irritably replied that it was boring. The chief, aware of Gilbert's quest for strong foes, suggested that he return to the capital, as strong soldiers were gathering there due to the crumbling power balance between the kingdom and other countries. Gilbert took the advice and returned to the capital, joining the army and defeating every strong recruit without challenge. Shifting his focus to monsters, he found no one who could satisfy him. Bored and frustrated, he was resting and looking at the clouds when his master approached. Noticing Gilbert's dissatisfaction despite being awarded the title of Divine Spear, a title comparable to the master's Divine Sword, his master suggested fighting Anise, but Gilbert knew he could defeat her as her strength was different from his. Wishing for more fighters like his master, Gilbert found the thought intriguing. He asked if his master ever got bored teaching amateur soldiers and adventurers. His master explained that these people would protect their kingdom and might one day surpass him. Gilbert hoped this would happen in his generation. Back in the present, Gilbert wondered what kind of person could kill a minotaur single-handedly, as Noor had done. He couldn't figure Noor out, noting his lack of interest in lavish rewards and his confidence when speaking to the king. Despite not sensing any strength from Noor, he was able to dodge all of Gilbert's attacks. Gilbert was puzzled why his spear couldn't reach Noor, even when he gave it his all, and was ashamed that even his ultimate attack, faster than the speed of sound, failed. Unable to fathom how Noor dodged that attack, Gilbert experienced his first defeat in single combat. He wondered if Noor had yielded to save him from embarrassment in front of his soldiers, feeling humiliated. After defeating him, Noor simply said he looked forward to seeing Gilbert again and left. Gilbert then noticed some cracks on the floor of the stage, bewildered by how they appeared. He thought things were finally getting interesting. Meanwhile, Noor, on his way back home, reflected on the match, acknowledging he still had much to learn and shouldn't get cocky like before. He realized he had used physical enhancement combined with feather step to dodge Gilbert's special attack. The confident Les Bum thought that Gilbert must have slowed down his attack to allow him to dodge, having forgotten his own name. He recognized he should be grateful to Gilbert for showing him his weaknesses, and resolved to train even harder. The next morning, we see Noor using the legendary sword to clean drains. Impressed by how the sword made the job easier, he thought it was great, noting that it didn't chip no matter how harshly he used it. He humorously considered the possibility of becoming a legendary drain cleaner. Others gathered around, astonished by his talent, mentioned they would commission him to clean their drains next time. The scene then cuts to Noor in the forest. Though glad he could clean drains better, he was saddened that his construction job was suspended due to a recent incident. He worried about being unnecessary if the guild ran out of work, and pondered how he could help people with his sword when that happened. He considered using the sword for grilling food, rowing a boat, and other purposes, but never mentioned the traditional use of swords. Trying to light a fire for cooking with his tiny flame, he realized it wouldn't be enough. Bummed out that despite completing training in all schools, he only learned basic skills, Noor encountered Lin. Remembering that Anise told him not to be overly familiar with their family, he called her by her full name, but she insisted he call her just Lin. She explained she found him by asking the guildmaster, whom Noor thought wouldn't know his exact location, realizing she must have used her tracking skills. Lin asked Noor to take her in as a page, a term unfamiliar to him. She explained that a page is similar to an apprentice, attending to daily needs while receiving instruction and wisdom. She requested permission to stay by his side, but he outright refused. Worried she had offended him, Lin insisted she could be helpful if given the chance. Noor explained he had nothing to teach her and didn't need someone to take care of him. Lin offered compensation, but Noor remained firm in his refusal. Lin began to cry, swearing she would be helpful, and demonstrated her skills: Hell Flare, Icicle Dance, a knockoff lightsaber, and Mist Blade. Noor stopped her from showing more skills. Lin thought this meant he would accept her as an apprentice, but he denied it, knowing she was more talented than him and felt like a commoner in comparison. Convincing her further, Noor said he was even more certain he couldn't teach her anything. Lin, thinking he doubted her abilities, revealed that her talents were acknowledged by the 6 sovereigns, teachers of the 6 training schools. Aware she was no match for him, Lin asked how to stop pestering him. Noor decided to show her one of his low-level abilities to prove his point, using Tiny Flame. Surprised, Lin returned home, recalling how, during her training, instructors mentioned a legendary boy who conquered all 6 schools at the age of 12, although it sounded unbelievable given the harsh training. This changed when she met Noor, remembering Okun, the magic instructor, showing her his tiny flame and explaining it could grow with practice. Realizing that making the flame bigger required time and dedication, Lin was speechless seeing Noor's giant tiny flame. Noor explained that his other skills were the same, leading her to believe he was unparalleled in all 6 branches. She felt ashamed by her poor display of skills in front of such a skilled individual, recalling how he never boasted even after defeating a minotaur with a single broadsword. She admired his strength in both body and mind, knowing nothing could daunt him anymore. Determined not to give up on becoming his apprentice, Lin decided to learn from Nor's strength, knowing she and her brother would eventually leave the kingdom. That night, Nor left a restaurant and encountered Lin outside. She admitted her immaturity and declared she would keep following him until deemed worthy of being his page. Calling him instructor, she believed the answer their house had searched for generations lay with him, while Nor wondered how things had turned out like this. The scene shifts to Rain, deep in thought, questioning why his father would bestow the black sword upon a stranger. Rain recalls that when his father was an adventurer, he ventured into the labyrinth of the lost with the 6 sovereigns to retrieve that very sword, a quest that took years of peril. The blade, forged from materials never before seen, is tougher than both orichalcum and mithril. Renowned as the indestructible blade due to its inability to be scratched by any skill or technique, its greatest mystery is how it ended up in such a deteriorated state. Rain believes the sword is too valuable to be given away lightly and realizes that his father must have sensed the ominous presence enveloping their country. He concludes that his father took a gamble on that man, possibly viewing him as a trump card against the impending threat. Meanwhile, we see Noah grabbing a bite to eat at a food stall, accompanied by Lin. He asks if it's okay for her to be out in public, to which she assures him it is. Noah then mentions that he plans to visit the guild after eating, and Lin, referring to him as her master, agrees. Noah feels unworthy of being called her master, and worries that the more he tries to correct the misunderstanding, the worse it gets. He hopes she will realize he isn't anything special once she sees the odd jobs he takes on, and they continue their meal. At the guild master is surprised to see Noah with Lin again. He discreetly inquires about the situation, and Noah explains that it's complicated. Sensing that Noah might not want to elaborate, the guild master changes the subject, but Noah insists he does want to talk about it, as he himself doesn't fully understand the situation. The guild master shifts focus, asking if Noah is there for a job. Noah requests a task suitable for 2 people, and the guild master suggests a goblin hunting quest outside of town, given Lin's B-ranked adventurer status. Excited, Noah recalls that goblins are often used by adventurers for training. He is thrilled at the prospect of accepting such a commission, but wonders if he should take advantage of Lin's rank. Feeling it might be selfish to ask her to form a party with him, especially after urging her to leave, Noah doubts whether Lin would even want to team up with someone as weak as him. Lin notices his hesitation and asks if something is wrong. Noah questions if she's okay with him relying on her rank. Lin reassures him, stating that he can utilize any of her abilities. Despite feeling guilty for depending on a young girl, Noah is eager to fulfill one of his dreams and begins to leave to find the goblins. The guild master reminds him that he hasn't been told where to find them, so Noah returns. The guild master approves the mission and warns Noah that goblins, though weak, can still be dangerous. He provides directions to the goblins and instructs them to report their kill count and bring back the goblins' right ears as proof, or they won't be paid. Lin notes that the goblins are located in the Forest of Beasts, and the guild master mentions that they haven't been seen much lately, suggesting they gather herbs if goblins are scarce. They understand and set off on their quest. At the city gates, the guards check their documents and allow them to pass. As they enter the Forest of Beasts, Noah observes that it is vastly different from the southern forest he frequents. He notices the massive trees, and Lin explains that the ecosystem here is also different. Curious about goblins, Noah asks what kind of monsters they are. Lin informs him that goblins usually eat fruits and small animals, but will aggressively attack people. If left unchecked, they multiply rapidly, and when they run out of food, they assault human settlements. This is why the capital regularly sends adventurers to cull their numbers. However, the forest ecosystem thrives with goblins, so they can't be completely eradicated. She explains that this forest is also home to rare flora and fauna, making it an ideal hunting ground and income source for new adventurers. Noah is impressed by Lin's knowledge, realizing that aside from her strength, she is also well informed. He feels there is nothing he can teach her. They venture deeper into the forest, enveloped in a light fog. After a while, Lin uses her detection ability to search for goblins, but finds none, which she finds unusual. She confirms the rumors about the goblins' scarcity must be true, but detects something further inside. They decide to investigate, heading even deeper into the forest. The forest grows darker due to the dense vegetation, and Lin notes that goblins prefer such terrain. Suddenly, she looks surprised. Noah asks what's wrong, and Lin says the presence she detected was right in front of them, but has now vanished. Noah suggests it might be a sick monster that died, which Lin finds plausible. They proceed to the location to investigate. They find nothing on the ground, but Noah spots a goblin's corpse hanging in the air. Realizing something is amiss, Lin casts an uncover spell, revealing a large hidden goblin emperor. Lin tries to identify the monster, but Noah, amazed by its size, assumes it must be a goblin. He is shocked by how much larger it is than he imagined and can't believe that adventurers consider goblins to be the weakest of all monsters. He notices that the creature has green skin, 2 legs, and a sharp glare typical of goblins. Despite his disbelief, he realizes that Lin is trembling. He assumes that, despite her talent, she must still be inexperienced in combat. However, Lin knows that the Goblin Emperor is a subspecies of the Goblin King and a catastrophe-class monster. She explains that Goblin Emperors are artificially created through forbidden research, capable of cannibalizing their kind to absorb mana and grow stronger. Noah is unaware of the significance of the Goblin Emperor and reassures Lin not to be scared, dismissing it as just another goblin. Lin wonders if Noah had anticipated this situation all along and came prepared. She remembers his odd reaction when he first heard about the goblins. Noah suggests they take down the monster together, and Lin, determined, agrees. The monster attacks them with tree branches, but Noah skillfully parries. It strikes again, but Noah disarms one of the branches, giving Lin an opening to cast Wind Cutter and Icicle Dance spells. However, the goblin is too fast, and her spells miss. Noah marvels at the goblin's speed and saves Lin from another tree thrown by the monster, parrying it in time. Lin notices the Goblin Emperor's wounds healing rapidly and spots a mana stone on its forehead. Realizing this is the source of its regeneration, she tells Noah they need to remove it. The goblin then hurls multiple trees at once, overwhelming Noah, but Lin uses her wind blast to deflect them. The monster is injured, but heals immediately, confirming Lin's suspicion about the mana stone. Noah realizes they can't win a war of attrition and doubts his ability to remove the stone. He then gets an idea and asks Lin to cast Wind Blast at his back, explaining she won't hit him directly but his sword, propelling him forward at incredible speed. Lin is hesitant, knowing the spell's strength, but Noah convinces her it's their best chance. Lin casts Wind Blast, and Noah is launched forward. The speed is overwhelming, so he uses physical enhancement and Feather Step to cope, breaking a bone in the process and using Low Heal to mend it. He then leaps and strikes the goblin's forehead, dislodging the mana stone. Noah crashes to the ground as the goblin writhes in excruciating pain. Lin rushes to Noah, who assures her he's fine and asks her to finish the monster. He requests that she make its death quick, but Lin, misunderstanding, uses Hell Flare, burning the goblin alive. Noah, equally oblivious, prays after the horrific execution, deciding he needs to stick to simpler jobs until he's stronger. Later, Rain learns about the Goblin Emperor and examines the large mana stone it left behind, realizing the monster was colossal, several times larger than a Goblin King. He suspects the Magic Empire's involvement and learns the Monostone is the demon's heart of the holy theocracy of Mithra. Concerned for his sister, he inquires about her well-being. The Shadow Company reports she only suffered minor scratches, surprising Rain that they managed to slay the monster with so few injuries. The Shadow Company also mentions the goblin used an advanced concealment spell, hiding for 2 to 3 days. Rain is troubled that even the Shadow Company failed to detect the spell and wonders how the creature was transported into their country unnoticed. He speculates that their sensory network would have detected a summoning. Rain learns there was a decrease in goblin activity in the area, possibly affecting other regions too. The Shadow Company presents a report on strange incidents over the last 3 months, and Rain orders them to continue investigating. Noah and Lin return to the guild to report, surprising the guild master that Noah defeated a goblin. Noah admits it was tough, crediting Lin for their success. Lin insists Noah did most of the work, but Noah feels it was a significant day for him, being his first hunt. The guild master, overhearing, assumes Noah watched, while Lin did the heavy lifting, praising Noah for his cautious approach. Noah recounts the goblin's weakness being the gem on its forehead, surprising the guild master, who notes that monostones are typically in the heart or throat. He wonders if Noah faced something other than a goblin. Noah asks Lin for confirmation, and she agrees, trusting her master's judgment. The guild master speculates it might have been a rare goblin and asks for proof. Noah, having burned the monster, realizes he forgot to collect its ear, leaving them without evidence. The scene cuts to Rain reading reports about strange noises at night, increasing reports of lost pets, a grandfather disappearing during a walk, nearby forests suddenly falling silent, and livestock cowering in fear. He thinks these incidents are similar to what happened in the Forest of Beasts and wonders if the enemy has already penetrated their nation. He orders the Shadow Company to prepare for dispatch, including those who can use uncover and detect concealment spells. He also calls for all 6 sovereigns, declaring it an emergency. As the Shadow Company leaves, Rain wonders why he didn't notice sooner and can't believe the Magic Empire would go this far. He questions what wrong his kingdom has done to them, and if human lives mean nothing to them. Angrily, he asks himself if they are preparing to raze his kingdom to the ground. Afterwards, we see Noah and Lin celebrating Noah's first hunting quest. Lin is grateful the guildmaster gave them their reward despite forgetting the goblin's ear, and Noah remembers he did it to celebrate his first hunting quest. Noah enjoys the food, but wonders how long Lin will follow him, thinking her family might worry. After finishing her meal, Lin says she'll head home, and Noah thanks her for her help. Before she leaves, her brother finds her and apologizes for interrupting Noah's meal. He asks Noah to accompany Lin to a mountain town tomorrow, offering to arrange a carriage and escort. He can't reveal details, but hopes Noah will accept the quest. Noah speculates Rain might want them to transport something, and Rain assures him he'll be compensated. Rain submits a formal commission to the guild, and we see Noah, Lin, and Inez in a carriage. Noah recalls the guildmaster saying the job was generous and he could relax. The country bumpkin accepted the quest to ride a carriage for the first time, hoping to see another country. He notices Lin looking down and asks if she's not interested in the scenery. She lies, saying she is, and Noah thinks about setting out on his own journeys once he becomes a proper adventurer. Lin apologizes for her brother dragging him into this, but Noah doesn't mind, as he's getting paid and owes her for the goblin hunt. He remembers Rain telling them to go to Tauros, a mountain city northwest of the capital, and stay there for a while. Rain mentioned that if nothing happens, they should go deeper into the mountains and cross the border into the holy theocracy of Mithra, treating it as a pleasure trip if nothing happens. Lin hopes nothing happens, and Inez assures her she'll ensure their safety. Inez remembers the prince's secret assignment. If the capital faces disaster, she should flee to Mithra with Noah and Lin. Inez wonders if Lin knows this, but the prince said she doesn't, as she'd insist on staying. Inez agreed to the request, and in the present, Noah and the others take a break. Inez apologizes for dragging Noah into this, but he doesn't mind, thinking it's just a trip. He notices she looks troubled, but she assures him she can keep them safe. Noah isn't worried, as he can keep himself safe and is good at running away. Inez shows him her shield, telling him he can hide behind it if needed. Noah understands and recalls Lin saying Inez is as strong as the swordsman who sparred with him, capable of defeating dragons. He thinks they are on another level, as he struggled with a single goblin. He tells Inez she's talented, and Inez recalls her life. She explains that after the orphanage took her in, she discovered a mysterious power. She accidentally hurt a girl with it and became terrified of her power. Later, she met the 6 sovereigns, who assured her they treated the girl and asked to see her power. Hesitantly, Inez showed them her power. They recognized it as a rare gift from the gods. Okun told her it could be a blade or a shield, depending on how she used it, even capable of destroying a nation. The sovereign of the warrior school, Dandog, promised to teach her to use this power. Dandog took Inez in and trained her to use her gift. Despite this, she couldn't shake her fear of accidentally hurting someone, so she distanced herself from others. She became callous to others' feelings and behavior, but this wasn't entirely true. She recalls a time when she was hunting monsters with her foster father, Dandog. During the mission, her father mentioned someone named Nor, expressing a wish for Nor's presence when they discovered an endless number of monsters. Hearing this made Inez jealous, a feeling that intensified now that Nor is in front of her. As they continue their journey, Inez realizes her feelings are causing her to waver. She reminds herself that her duty is to protect Lin with her life as the shield of House Clays. Noah notices a strange trail in the wheat fields, resembling a trampled path. He informs the others, and Lin senses something unusual in the fields. Inez stops the carriage, and Lin uses an uncover spell, revealing a concealed monster. Meanwhile, the capital is attacked by several monsters. The king realizes the time has come. A soldier informs him that the warrior corps are engaging the monsters, but are short on troops. Rain orders the deployment of the swordsman corps to blockade roads and manage the situation while evacuating citizens. He also commands the deployment of the Shadow Company and the Hunter Corps to eliminate as many monsters as possible. The king can't believe Derdis has followed through on his threats and wonders where the 6 sovereigns are. Rain informs him they have been deployed and are fighting powerful monsters in the city and nearby forests, spreading them thin. Rain hopes Lin and the others reach the town safely. Before Lin broke the spell, a boy walking with the monster she uncovered was thinking about killing humans. When she used her spell, the boy was distracted, and the monster attacked him. Inez identifies the monster as a Black Death dragon and wonders why such a terrifying creature is here. Noah sees the boy in danger and rushes to help, parrying the monster's attacks. Inez tells Lin the boy appeared when she used Uncover, suggesting he is one of the demon folk, demi-humans with the power to control demons. Lin recalls her brother explaining that demon folk are reviled, seen as closer to monsters than humans, and nearly annihilated the holy theocracy of Mitra 200 years ago. Their descendants, harboring a deep grudge against humans, have survived. Lin realizes the boy must be responsible for bringing the monster here, and Inez agrees, thinking he might be taking it to the capital. The Uncover spell likely disrupted his control. She wonders why Noah is helping someone like that, thinking he's acting foolishly. Lin insists they help Noah, but Inez stops her, saying it's too late. While fighting, Noah thinks the toad-like monster is neither fast nor strong, recalling the goblin was tougher. He aims to hold out until Lin and Inez catch up. The monster attacks with a black mass, and Noah parries it, preventing the boy from being injured. However, the black mass disperses, revealing it as poison. Inez explains, this is what makes the monster terrifying. and Noah's vision starts to blur. He realizes the poison is strong, and his body begins to go limp. Noah recalls Inez trying to warn him about the monster before he jumped out of the carriage. He gets on his knees as the dragon charges up another poison breath. Lin tries to rescue Noah, but Inez shields her with a barrier. Lin pleads to be let go, but Inez refuses, stating she will withstand the dragon's attacks while Lin flees. She emphasizes the survival of their nation is at stake, but Lin still wants to save Noah. Inez explains it's too late, as a single breath of the poison is fatal. Even the Sovereign of Salvation, Sane, might not save him now. The monster releases another poison breath, stronger than the last, and Inez shields Lin. Lin tries to purify the poison around Noah with her spell, but it doesn't reach him. She notices dead birds that inhaled the poison and worries about Noah. Inez apologizes for not being able to save him, feeling the desire to protect, but unable to act. The dragon's claw collides with her barrier, and as the poisonous fog subsides, she sees Noah still fighting. She's surprised he can move in that condition and realizes what her father meant. She aspired to protect others at the cost of her own life, but believes it's too late for Noah. The monster topples the barely standing Noah, who notices poison coming from his mouth. He thinks he will somehow manage. The silver-haired boy reflects on his past, recalling the time when he was locked up in a prison cell alongside others of his kind. He explains that they were known as cursed children because of their ability to control monsters, a power that had led them to be treated like livestock. They were fed stale bread as if they were animals. He goes on to explain that for generations, their race had used this power to control livestock. But eventually, someone began using it on monsters, sparking a war that resulted in countless deaths. Since then, their entire species had been hated. The boy remembers a time when he dared to stare at the person who brought them food, only to be severely beaten because the man didn't like being stared at. He says that being beaten was an everyday occurrence for him and the others. When he once tried to ask why they were being treated so cruelly, he was beaten beyond recognition and left with only water for 3 days, no food. The boy also reveals that his powers allow him to hear the thoughts of others. Whenever he was brought out to be put on display for the townspeople, they treated him with disdain, venting their anger over the loss of their loved ones on him. When they discovered his ability to read minds, they became even more violent, realizing they no longer needed to hold back since he knew what they were thinking. Despite all the horrific things done to him, the boy insists he never thought of taking revenge. Although the beatings and scorn were painful, he couldn't imagine doing the same to others. He was determined not to shed more blood. But then, the man who had beaten him earlier gave him some monsters and instructed him to take them to another country. The man promised that by doing this, the boy would be helping not only his race, but an entire country. He assured the boy that if he followed orders, he would never be beaten again, and both he and his friends would be fed good food every day. However, if he refused, things would remain the same, and they would likely worsen. The boy couldn't read the man's mind because of a magical item on his head, but he knew that the man had kept his word so far, so he decided to trust him and set off for Clay's kingdom. On his journey, the boy thought about the possibility of having to kill the people there. At that moment, his concealment spell broke, and the monster he controlled escaped. It attacked him, leaving him lying on the ground, worried that he had failed his mission. He feared that his failure would cause his friends to suffer as well. As the monster approached him, the boy realized he was going to die there. He regretted not being useful to anyone in his life, but found solace in the thought that no one could hurt him after death. He hoped that in his next life, he wouldn't be beaten and could be of use to someone. He wished he could eat tasty food. Resigning himself to his fate, he was prepared to die. But then Norse appeared and saved him, fighting the monster to protect him. The boy was bewildered by Norse's actions. When Norse was attacked by the monster's poison breath, he used a low-level healing spell on himself, and also healed the boy, who had been slightly poisoned. The boy was surprised by this, and even more so when the dragon unleashed more poisonous breath. Yet the boy remained unharmed due to the protective layer of the healing spell. Norse continued to battle the dragon, and after a desperate struggle, the dragon finally managed to bring him down. However, Norse noticed that the poison in his body was subsiding, and he thought he might manage to survive. He then recalled how, after his parents died and he returned from training schools, he had gone to the mountains to gather food. He collected a variety of plants and vegetables and made a soup by mixing them all together. The soup was delicious, and he thought nothing of eating it, even though he didn't check the ingredients carefully. However, he ended up consuming a deadly poison known as Dragon's Ruin, which caused him to start bleeding profusely. He was so weak that he could barely stand, but he used his low-level healing spell on himself. The spell helped somewhat, and by the next morning, he could just barely walk. After washing off the blood, he checked his books to identify what he had eaten. He discovered it was Dragon's Ruin, a plant his mother had warned him never to eat. Despite this, he stubbornly continued to train, even though he could barely walk straight. His body eventually gave out, and he collapsed while training, forcing him to use his healing spell on himself again. When he woke up, the pain in his stomach was gone, and he was hungry. Determined not to repeat his mistake, he returned to the forest, but made sure to avoid Dragon's Ruin. However, an extremely poisonous snake bit him. He killed the snake, but the poison knocked him out. Yet, he woke up after some time, surprised to find himself unharmed. He then took the snake home, cooked it, and ate it, thinking the poison wouldn't affect him since he had survived the bite. The snake was delicious, and the next day, he deliberately let a similar snake bite him again. Noticing that the poison's effects were slower this time, he realized he was developing immunity to the poison and thought he might even learn a new skill from this. From then on, he continued searching for and eating poisonous plants and animals. Although he sometimes collapsed and even coughed up blood, he kept eating without worry, finding that all poisonous plants and animals were surprisingly tasty. The story then returns to the present, where we see that Norse's body has already neutralized the dragon's poison. Norse thinks that the toad might be tasty as well, and when the toad attacks him, he dodges. He believes he should be fine now that he can detoxify the poison from this monster, and hopes the boy is safe. The monster attacks him again, but Norse parries all of its strikes. The boy is amazed to see Norse fighting such a terrifying creature on his own. The monster, now desperate, charges its most powerful poison breath yet, and Norse realizes it is putting everything into this one attack. However, Norse shuts the toad's mouth before it can release the poison, causing the breath to explode inside the toad, ultimately defeating it. Afterward, Atner is disgusted by the mess he made and surprised at how dangerous the toads outside the city are. He briefly thinks the creature might be tasty, and then asks the boy if he's okay. Noticing the boy looks pale, Atner decides to have Lin check on him later. He asks if the boy came all this way alone, but the boy hesitantly admits he brought the monster with him, promising to take it to the city. Atner, a country bumpkin, wonders if the boy was transporting the toad as an ingredient. Atner speculates that the boy kept the toad alive to preserve its meat and used concealment to protect it from thieves. Realizing a big city might have a recipe for cooking something poisonous like this, Atner feels foolish for potentially ruining valuable merchandise and apologizes for messing up the delivery. He offers compensation, but the boy, confused, says there's no need. Relieved, Atner wonders how the boy managed to bring the toad all the way here. The boy explains he can control monsters, which amazes Atner, who considers it a useful, God-given power. The boy then reveals, hesitantly, that he is a demon folk, and that his entire race shares this ability. Atner, unfamiliar with demon folk, wishes he had such powers, imagining how useful they would be for tasks like delivering letters or helping with fieldwork. The boy, sensing Atner's acceptance, asks if he's not afraid of him. Atner reassures him, saying his ability is valuable no matter what others think, which surprises the boy. Jokingly, Atner offers to take the ability if the boy doesn't want it, which moves the boy to tears. He's overwhelmed by the idea that someone could need him. Atner wonders why the boy thinks so little of himself, despite his blessing, and suspects it's due to his circumstances, but believes he'll be okay eventually. Lin and Anise then arrive, asking if Atner is all right. Atner reassures them, noting his bleeding has stopped and that he's resistant to poison, which surprises Lin. She realizes the poison wasn't ordinary. It was the ultimate poison capable of corroding the earth itself. The only explanation, she concludes, is the sacred spirit, a state of extraordinary dedication that purifies anything touched and heals any wound instantly. She's astonished that Atner has achieved this at such a young age. Atner then asks Lin to check on the boy. The boy insists he's fine, and Lin recognizes that he's a demon folk. Atner is surprised she knows this, and Lin asks what he intends to do with the boy. Atner hopes to let him travel with them, but Anise is uncertain. Lin notes that most countries would advise killing a demon folk on sight, and asks if Atner is sure about his decision. Atner is sure, though he laments the destruction of the wheat field, feeling they owe the boy since they ruined his toad delivery. Lin and Anise are shocked to learn the boy planned to take the monster into the city, and Lin considers the boy too dangerous, even if he's a child. Atner then asks who gave the boy this job. The boy says he wasn't told anything about his employer. Anise warns against keeping secrets, but realizes from his behavior that he genuinely doesn't know. The boy explains that this was how he was raised, leading Anise to conclude that he is a slave. Anise explains that while slavery is banned in their kingdom, it exists in some other countries, and the boy was likely exploited as a child soldier. She asks if he has a place to return to, but he doesn't, revealing he was blindfolded when brought here and doesn't even know where he came from. Hearing this, Atner wonders if they could take him to the nearest city. Lin, feeling remorseful for her earlier narrow-mindedness, recalls her father's advice to trust what lies before her eyes, realizing she almost made a mistake. She sees that the boy isn't an evildoer, just a scared child. Atner then asks the boy his name, and he introduces himself as Rollo. Atner is pleased with the short name, as he struggles to remember long ones. Lin then asks Anise if they can take Rollo with them. Anise understands but remains hesitant, explaining that demon folk are not allowed in the holy theocracy of Maitreya, making it difficult to take him with them. Leaving him in a city midway might mean he wouldn't survive, which Lin acknowledges. Before they can decide what to do, a man resembling an assassin suddenly arrives, surprised to see that Rollo is still alive.